Autism burnout and ways to avoid it. Here we go. Well, hello Indie people, and if you're brand new to my channel, I make weekly videos talking about being autistic from my experiences. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you subscribe, click the notification bell. So today we're talking about autism burnout and ways to avoid it. But if you don't know what autism burnout is, I'll briefly explain it here. Autism burnout is basically a state of being that an autistic person gets themselves into when they are overworked, or they have so many demands that they just can't meet demand. It's that state of being where someone is physically, mentally drained, exhausted, feeling lethargic. And if an autistic person is in burnout, they may not be able to have the capacity to deal with sensory information, so light, sound. It might just be more overbearing than what it used to be, have difficulty with executive functions, and feel like they can't function with daily management of their life, such as time management, organization and planning. So the first way to avoid autism burnout is basically to learn what your autism burnout signs are. Because for autistic people, we all experience things in different ways. What someone may experience may be completely different to another autistic person's experiences. But when it comes to burnout and the signs of burnout, for me, I feel typically a lot more tired than what I normally do. And this is a continuous thing over several days. I'll just feel really tired, really drained. I just feel like there's a massive weight on my shoulders, and just everything just seems to take a lot more time to do, and everything just feels like I'm climbing a mountain every single time I try to do it. So to try and combat that tiredness and just fatigue I feel the need to eat more sugary sweets, snacks, chocolate, that sort of thing. Also caffeinated drinks such as coffee or Coke, which I know is not a healthy thing to do, but it's that general thing of just trying to get myself out of this funk of just feeling very tired and fatigued. And that is one of the things that could be a sign for someone on the spectrum if they're eating more sugary stuff or just caffeinated drinks. When I'm in burnout, or I feel like I'm getting into burnout, it's harder to retain information, and as well as this, processing information becomes a lot more difficult as well. So there could be issues with memory, but also being able to process information. Now this could be verbal information, someone telling you something, or it could be dealing or handling sensory information, so being able to handle lights, noises, those sorts of things. You know, sensory information could be a lot more difficult to process than usual. Now these can be all signs of someone going into burnout, and understanding what signs of burnout you experience I think is very, very important in trying to avoid burnout for yourself. But I definitely think the next thing to talk about in avoiding autism burnout is knowing your limits. We can all forget where our limits are, either because we want to excel, try to push ourselves to reach the next bracket of our career, or you know, just to try and complete a project that we really, really love. Now, as an example of not knowing limits, for me, I used to publish 2 videos a week. This was last year. I used to publish 2 videos a week on top of a 40-hour office job, on top of being in a band, on top of being in a romantic relationship, all of those sorts of things, having a social life, and you know, just everything that comes with a life in general is hard enough, but having multiple commitments and you know, being able to handle all of those commitments at the same time, and juggling band practices and juggling work at the same time, it just gets way too much. And for me, I overdo it. I have overdone it so many times where it's just pushed me to breaking point, and it's just crushed me inside. So I think it's important to understand where your limits are, but being able to say, I've reached my limit, I need to scale back on how much I am actually doing because it's just way too much, I think is an incredibly important thing. Now, next tip is really obvious, but I want to mention it here. It's basically try not to overdo it. Try not to overstep. Basically trying to keep within your limits. It's difficult to not overdo it sometimes, because I feel this need to constantly prove myself, not to myself, but to other people. I feel this constant thing in my mind that I have to keep proving myself to be relevant, be accepted by people, which might not be the healthiest mindset in the world, but that's generally how I felt. Now, I'm not trying to say that having ambition and just wanting to succeed is a bad thing, but I think when you try to overdo it, it has the opposite effect to what your visions are. You know, working hard, I think, is incredibly important, but it's when you overdo it that can have a negative effect instead of a positive one. Because if someone's overcommitting or feel like they're under so much pressure, then they're not going to be able to perform to the best of their abilities. Now, the next way to avoid autism burnout is just being prepared when it comes to the sensory challenges that you will or could possibly experience. Now, I can't speak for everyone who's autistic, because I am only one autistic person. If you have an opinion, I would love to know down below. But when it comes to autistic people, the majority of us do experience some form of sensory challenge, whether it is dealing with lights, dealing with sound, dealing with the sensitivities when it comes to wearing clothes. If someone is in autism burnout or going into autism burnout, their senses could potentially be heightened because of the burnout, because of just feeling so overwhelmed, feeling the pressure, feeling the stress. So when it comes to the sensory side of things, if you're having trouble processing how bright the lights are, you might wear sunglasses more frequently, or if you're finding noise a lot more unbearable because you're feeling more tired and all of these different things in regards to burnout, then you might put some earplugs in. You know, just general things like that. It's basically trying to find things for you that work for you when it comes to the sensory side of things. So for me, when it comes to the sensory side of things, it's typically glasses, headphones, and me just wearing vest tops around my house all day and wearing shorts. Basically, the comfier the clothes for me, the better. I did make a video talking about autism life hacks, and because we talked about sensory stuff in this part of the video, I think that video that I did might be quite helpful. So if you want to check that out, I'll link it up there for you to watch after this video. Now, the next way to avoid autism burnout is by taking regular breaks. Now, we've obviously talked about not overdoing it, knowing where your limits are. The more that you're working on something and not taking care of yourself by taking breaks and things, the more likely you're going to end up in burnout. Now, the reason I'm talking about taking regular breaks is not only because it's important, it's something that I have experienced as well, you know, not taking breaks, just overdoing it all of the time. Basically, to give you an example of what life used to be like for me, I would go to work, and then as soon as I got on the bus to come home, I was emailing people to do with YouTube stuff, replying to comments on the bus, all of that sort of thing. As soon as I would get home, I'd be back at my laptop. I was editing a video, publishing, promoting a video or something. Even at weekends, I was still filming. I was still editing. I just was not taking proper care of myself, and not only can this lead to burnout, but it can also affect personal relationships. It's important to be able to take breaks from the things that you do or love, to be able to experience new things, but also being able to put in regular breaks just gives you that time to be able just to switch off. Now, the next way to avoid burnout, and I think this is the most important way to avoid burnout, is if you're struggling, like if you feel overworked, if you feel really stressed out, you feel like you are overcommitted, just you feel all of the feels, it's important to reach out to people if you are struggling. You might say down below in the comments, Andy, I don't have anyone, you know, I don't have friends, I don't have family, you know, people don't understand me, people just don't get the struggles that I experience because they think that they're mediocre or not important. But trust me when I say there are always people that understand. There are always people to listen to you or relate to you in some way. Even if it's not exactly the same thing, people can still understand, and there are people that do want to help. Whatever it is, it's important to reach out to people who you trust. So it could be a family member, a friend, a teacher, but also a problem shared is also a problem halved. And for me, when I started actually opening up about my problems and struggles with things, you know, when I found the right people, it lessened the load. I felt just better because I was able just to offload what I was struggling with, and we were actually able to come up with solutions to those problems. So for me, when it comes to avoiding burnout, feeling overwhelmed, fatigued, just all of that stuff, it's important to reach out, say that you're having problems, say you're having issues, and try to find a solution through talking to people. And like I say, a problem shared is a problem halved. So if you found this video useful, make sure you leave a like for me down below, share with a friend if you found it useful. Stay you, stay indie. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you next time.